Today at Nomads Nation, we are doing an Ask Me Anything with Jimmy Hayes, the co-founder of one of my favorite backpack companies, Minaal. All of these questions come from the Nomads Nation community. In fact, we had over 230 questions submitted. And at the end of the interview, I'll pick my favorite question and the winner will get a free, brand new Minaal Carry On 3.0 backpack. If you want to participate in AMA/giveaways like this in the future, be sure to sign up to our email list, which you can do with the first link in the description below. Once you sign up, you'll learn a little bit more about our Building a Backpack project here at Nomads Nation, where we're literally building a backpack, documenting the entire experience, and having our community vote on some of the key features. You will also be able to participate in future AMA/giveaways like this one. Let's jump into it. All right, Jimmy, thank you so much for joining Nomads Nation today for this Ask Me Anything. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous doing this because we've never done a piece of content like this before, but I sent out the email to the Nomads Nation community and we got over 230 responses. So I'm pretty excited about this. Obviously, the Nomads Nation community wants to learn more about you, more about the Minaal brand. So I don't think we're gonna get to all 230 questions, but we're gonna blast through as many of them as we can and see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Awesome, dude. So real fast though, before we jump into the questions, I just kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, the Minaal brand, mainly for the people who aren't aware of Minaal and you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they want my whole backstory, but I was born and raised in a small town in New Zealand, in the South Island of New Zealand. Very important, South Island, best island.
South side.
Ended up meeting my co-founder at university in Vancouver. We were both on exchange there, and we both enjoyed pretending to study and actually just going traveling and skiing a bunch. And so the two of us and three other Kiwi exchange students bought like a 1992 Plymouth Grand Voyager, I think. It was like a powder blue family wagon, and just drove around North America. Like we went from Vancouver right down to Baja, up into Colorado, down to Florida, up into Newfoundland, and back across. And so it was like 50 something days and 18,000 plus miles, or 22 something thousand kilometers. And you know, there's 5 people living in a van. You start learning some things about how to travel.
I could imagine.
For example, I learned don't pack a 95-liter duffel bag with no backpack straps on a long road trip. That was a very dumb decision.
Pretty important learning lesson there.
Yeah, that set me in motion for the next few years. You know, after that kind of foundational experience, my co-founder Doug and I, we both moved back to New Zealand, got jobs, started careers, kind of. We just kept on kneecapping our careers by going traveling at the drop of a hat. You know, I'd get a call at 11:59 p.m. with Doug saying, "Hey, there's a really cheap ticket to the Philippines or to LA or whatever." And I was like, let's go. Okay, yeah, I'll just put in my notice for a little while and come back and hope I have a job. And so we did that for a few years, and eventually Doug sort of dragged me into this thinking of, hey man, if we can somehow start something or do something that helps us or that lets us make money while we're on the road, then we can do this forever. And I thought that sounded like a pretty good option. And I think we tried a bunch of things. You know, it wasn't like an overnight thing. We had a lot of different ideas, a lot of interesting, I wouldn't call them failures, but learning
lessons. Yeah.
And And then, you know, after a few years, kind of realized that we'd been hanging out for a carry-on bag that we couldn't find. And so we eventually said, okay, we've got enough complaints to kind of form a design here. And so we launched our first, you know, fast forwarding a little bit, we launched our first carry-on bag in 2013 on Kickstarter. And then from there, just carried on. Launched the version 2 in 2015 or something, and launched the daily and expanded with some accessories. And yeah, still continue to this day. We've done 3 Kickstarters. We run our own website, obviously, and just keep working on the bags. And honestly, like I think if I was going to summarize uh, what we do every day, it's just kind of talking to people. So yeah, we're working on bags, but also, a lot of the people from 2013 from the first Kickstarter are still part of the fam, part of the community. And so we end up talking to those people about the products as well. And so that's kind of the summary of how I spend my days, is just talking to people and talking about products and working on products as well.
That's really interesting. It seems like you have a pretty tight-knit community within Minaal then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know what it's like for other companies, obviously, but I feel like it's really special to have, I see this name pop up and I'm like, wow, I've known this person for 8 years or whatever. And, known them through these emails or through some product research calls or something like that. But yeah, it's just those long-term relationships really add sort of a richness to the experience. And yeah, it's super tight knit. But also very, it's broad. We ship worldwide. We have done since day one, and so there's people kind of dotted around the world that we get to be in touch with, and that's another really, really cool thing for me, is just being in touch with people doing interesting things in interesting spots.
I'm sure. I mean, it must have been so interesting to see Minaal grow as organically as it did, and now you have like this international tribe in some ways, because like you said, it's a tight-knit community. People that were supporting you guys 8-10 years ago, you're still seeing their names pop up. So it's got to be a good testament for you to know that what you're doing is, at least on the right path, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm sure people would do, if other people running the company, they'd do a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
But for us, it's always been about the people and the products, and everything else ends up kind of being a distraction, So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing in terms of what I get to do every day. There's always, well, actually, I take that back. I'd like to do less accounting.
Wouldn't we all?
Anything along those lines, I'm happy to drop. But yeah, people and products, if I can fill my day with those things, I'm going to be happy for a long time.
That's amazing. Your story sounds so interesting, and we have a lot of similarities with ours too, in terms of just like this travel fever. And I'd love to pick your brain more on it, but I gotta give the people what they asked for, and I gotta start ripping off some of these questions. So you ready to jump into it?
Hey man, yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome, man. So this is a question from Just Dave. Also, I want to apologize to anybody's names if I accidentally butcher them, and I absolutely will. My apologies beforehand. But this first question is from Just Dave. Just Dave asks, can you please explain your logo for Minaal and the inspiration behind it?
Great name, Just Dave. And I think you pronounced that one correctly.
Thank you. So far, so good.
Yeah, we're good. We're 1 for 1. The logo, yeah, sure. So, man, long story short, very first logo, we took elements, so earth and water and whatever, and we had 3 colors and we laid them over each other in this kind of matte pen inspired thing. So originally, the original inspiration was a matte pen, but obviously we didn't want to do a matte pen because that's super obvious and kind of it's not super subtle. And so then we had this kind of, this colored version where we overlaid 3 different colors, and it was fine. That was the first version. But what we found was, one, it didn't really pop very well in terms of color scheme. And 2, just having the layers and the colored layers was really hard to deploy in a lot of different ways, which we needed to do. So online, offline, different types of materials, different types of products, different products themselves. So we wanted to change that up. We eventually moved to the V2 logo, which was 2 blues overlaid with the same shape. We kind of solved half of the issue, and that 2 layers is much easier to represent in a 3D space than 3 is. But still, we were dealing with this issue where we couldn't really deploy these layers in a consistent way across all of these different spaces that we needed to do it, and executions that we needed. So eventually we ended up with the V3 logo, which we have now, which is just a line logo. But we've given ourselves freedom to kind of make the color whatever we want, whenever we want. So we can choose the color based on the background, based on what's surrounding it, all that sort of stuff. And also, when it's just a line logo, you can really easily mold it, sculpt it, stamp it, whatever you need to do in a kind of non-colored 3D space. So yeah, now we're really happy with where it's at, and I think it's still is a pretty similar shape, so it still retains that matte pin inspiration from the start.
That's so interesting because, well, it was interesting to hear about the functional side of things, right? Putting it onto actual products and making sure the logo can actually, be there and be durable. But I always, for some reason, assumed that it was like a fox. I've always referred to it in my reviews as like Minaal's fox logo, but it's actually not a fox.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where you get that from. It looks a little bit like a fox, but that wasn't the original inspiration.
Okay, cool. Well, it can be many things to many people, right? It's like a piece of artwork. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, our logo is a Picasso. We'll leave it there.
It's a Picasso.
Enough said.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, next question we have is from, and here I'm going to butcher a name. I think it's K-I-E. Jimmy, how would you pronounce that name? K-I-E.
Oh, man. Don't do that to me. Kia?
We'll go with Kia. Kia's question: what is one product / backpack you wish you designed because it's so good? I assume this is a non-Minaal product.
Man. Okay, so I would go the Roost stand. Roost, R-O-O-S-T stand. Is he pulling one out?
This bad boy right here?
Yeah, there we go.
This is the next. No, this is the next stand. Wait, which one's Wait, is it the same style though? Is it the same?
It's basically the same thing.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna say for James created the Roost stand. I'm pretty sure he was the original.
Okay.
So the Roost stand, I mean, I was on like a podcast in 2014 or something, complaining about having elbow and wrist pain from writing too many emails.
Yeah. And
he cold DM'd me and said, it's because you're not using a laptop stand. You got to get a laptop stand. I make a laptop stand. What's your address? I'm going to send one to you. And it is the closest thing to a miracle cure I've ever had. It was like 2 days in or something. I just had no pain. My neck was fine. My arms were fine. And I've used it almost every day since. And I think it's a beautiful piece of engineering, super light, super portable, and I really respect the founder, James. So yeah, if I could have designed anything, I would have wanted to design that, I think.
I love that answer because it speaks to me so much because, well, whether it's Next Stand or the Roost, I mean, just as a product, it's, from a health perspective, I also get a lot of neck pain, and just to be able to have like that perfect ergonomic setup where the computer's eye level, you obviously need the Bluetooth keyboard and the Bluetooth mouse, but I'm a big fan of that product as well. Good answer.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if I go a couple of hours now without using it, and I'm looking down at my laptop, I start getting headaches.
Yeah, you get spoiled. You get spoiled after a while.
Yeah, I'm addicted. I'm fully Roost stand addicted.
Jimmy, the next question comes from Amir Khan. Amir asks, if you think of your bags as spirit animals, which is your favorite and what would it be?
Well, my everyday favorite, roll top. I'm going to go with the roll top. It's hard to say, but I would say that my everyday sort of work commute bag, when I do commute, is the roll top. And spirit animal, man. I'd say, okay, bring it back to New Zealand tourism. Here we go. The fantail, which is a bird in New Zealand, tiny little bird, the piwaka waka. And if you're walking in the forest, you're walking along some trails, say by yourself, often this one little tiny fantail will come along, kind of jump from branch to branch and follow you along for quite a while, like just accompany you along with the trail. And there's something really, there's something really positive about that stress-free interaction. It's just you and the bird going along the trail, and they're kind of keeping you company. And I think if Minaal products could get anywhere close to providing that sort of low-key kind of joy of companionship, I guess. That I feel when I have that bird. That's the feeling I want to have when I'm using our gear. And so if we can hit something close to that, I'd be pretty happy.
Perfect. Next question, Jimmy, comes from CJ Sage. CJ asks, why do so many of your excellent and well-designed products use easily wrinkled materials?
Wow, CJ coming in hot.
That's
a spicy question. All right. Not holding back. Okay. I'm glad to hear that question. It's hard to answer without knowing the exact product and the exact materials, but I don't think any of the smaller bags or the accessories would wrinkle. So I'm gonna guess it's the flagship stuff. It's the Carry On and the Daily.
From my experience, just to cut in, Jimmy, yeah, I would agree. I got the Minaal roll top right there, the tool cases, no wrinkling there, but the Carry On and the Daily can sometimes have a more wrinkled aesthetic to it.
Interesting. I mean, I know they can arrive wrinkled from being compressed in storage and shipping and stuff like that. So sometimes people say, hey, my bag turned up wrinkled, and it's like, pack it 2 or 3 times, it'll work itself out. And it always has. If there's anything from ongoing usage, I mean, the bags aren't rigid, so they have a compressible front panel. If they are compressed in that way for a long time, maybe they get wrinkled. I honestly haven't seen it that much in our support channel. So if anyone wants to send stuff through, that's feel free to get in touch through our website. I think I don't know about the generation as well that this person's talking about. So one of the things upgrading from the previous models to the 3.0 models is we started using our Picton fabric. And that has been a huge step up for us in terms of overall fabric performance, but specifically how it appears, how it acts over time. I'm sure wrinkling would have been part of that as well. So but if there's anything specific anyone wants to reach out about, we're always here. Just get in touch through the website. And
I can say I got your back with this one because, yeah, sometimes when I've gotten Minaal bags, they do come in a little bit wrinkly just based on the form of the bag and the actual material used. But like you said, you pack it out 2-3 times, couple weeks on the road, those wrinkles smooth out real fast.
Yeah, that's my experience too. But CJ, if you got something to share, please send us through an email.
Awesome. All right, next question comes from Natalia Castro. Natalia asks, it's been almost 10 years since the launch of the first Minaal. If you had the chance to start over, is there anything you would change or do differently, and why?
I'm not going to change anything about the product journey. I think the product journey is what it is, and we wouldn't be where we are without it. So I'd say that everything that felt like a misstep is just a step towards getting to today, which I'm happy with. I think the biggest thing I would change is just surrounding myself and ourselves with mentors earlier. I'm a big believer in learning through doing, but it doesn't mean that you have to learn every single lesson in painful detail by yourself. It's okay sometimes to get someone who's been down that path before to say, probably want to avoid doing that. Should probably do this. You'll save yourself 9 months, $20,000 and a lot of pain.
Definitely.
So yeah, I would change that. I think we didn't, partly because we were outsiders and partly because we didn't have connections. We didn't really know anyone. We're just operating by ourselves. We didn't actively seek out or we didn't attract mentors. And so we ended up learning by doing, but I think we could have moved a lot faster and with a lot less painful experience if we'd surrounded ourselves with mentors.
Yeah, I could imagine there was a fair amount of trial and error. Not having that sort of a mentor role. Were you guys able to find any sort of mentor role over time, or was it just you guys just sort of learned your systems and learned through that trial and error?
All of the above. So we learned a ton through trial and error. I think we managed to find a really good community of other product-focused businesses. So people running, like James at Rooststand is a great example of that. And so there's a peer group, there's learning ourselves, there's a peer group, and then we found a few people who have been through this sort of stuff before. And it's nothing formal necessarily, but it's just being able to be in touch with people and say, hey, are you familiar with this? Have you ever encountered this before? And maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but just being able to talk it through with someone who kind of understands the context has been really valuable.
I could imagine. Next question is from Nate R. Nate asks, how has your used and refurbished program performed so far? I've been seeing more and more carry brands implement similar programs.
Yeah, the marketplace. It's going well. I would always love to see more used stuff being posted because, for us, the marketplace is a really beneficial program. It connects people together. It gives people a way to get new gear, whether they're upgrading to a newer model or just shifting the type of bag that they want. It gives them a way of finding a good home for their perfectly fine unit. So it's not just going into landfill. And someone gets a really great product that's been used at a great price. So for us, it's a win-win, and we just love facilitating those connections. And I'm stoked to see more companies doing it, because I think there's a lot of waste in our industry and our market, and anything that can reduce that is a great thing. It's always hard to get people to list, because often, their bag's 5 or 10 years old and they're perfectly happy with it. It's, oh yeah, it's still going strong.
Yeah.
No need to upgrade, no need to change it. And I respect that, you don't need to change this for the sake of it. So I'd love to see more used stuff popping up. It's kind of like one comes in and goes out the next day.
Sure.
It's in really high demand. One thing I would love to do is expand beyond the US, but we use a software platform as a provider, and so we can have input on their roadmap, and they're slowly expanding outside the US, but we're kind of constrained by that. But yeah, as soon as we can get it, as close to worldwide as possible, I'll be really happy, because I think it's a really worthwhile project.
So the Refurbished program then is exclusive to people in the US, and then you can hopefully sort of learn the system and scale up from there?
Exactly.
Got it. I got a question from John. John asks, which competitor of yours is doing the best job and why?
Good question.
I thought so. Keeping it spicy.
Yeah. John, I guess it depends what you mean by best job, but I'm going to guess product, because there's lots of different jobs to do.
Why don't you take it however you think? I mean, whatever you think defines best job.
Yeah, I like talking about product.
Okay.
So, I'm less interested in some of the other stuff. So I think in terms of product, Peak Design do a really incredible job. They operate pretty differently to the way we do. And
can I ask, I'm sorry, Jay, I'm just curious, how do they operate differently? What do you mean by that?
I don't know this for a fact, but I think they have a nice office in San Francisco.
Yes, they do.
Which is not something that we have. I'm in my home office.
You guys are entirely remote, right?
We're entirely remote,
okay.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe they work from home too. I'm kind of projecting, but it is that sort of, I think they have a more traditional structure in all sorts of ways than us.
Definitely.
Which probably benefits them in a lot of ways. There's pluses and minuses, right?
Of course,
so,
yeah.
It's always easy to come across like I'm throwing shade here when I'm really not. So I think they kind of operate a bit differently from us. They also make products for, I think, a different use case, a different set of values, right? But they just nail what they do. Like I think they know what they're trying to do, and then they execute on it really well, and they make really beautiful gear, and they've been really successful. So I think they product wise do a great job. And if I have a bonus, I'd say they're kind of paused now, but what Jan was doing at SDR Traveler was a really early inspiration for me. And I think just the whole concept of SDR Traveler is total genius.
I gotta pick your brain here. What is SDR Traveler?
SDR Traveler is so Jan is as a researcher, like a sociological researcher, I guess you'd call him, and he goes into kind of marginal markets to do research. So some telecoms company wants him to go into Kazakhstan and figure out what the locals care about in terms of this topic or whatever it might be. So he's kind of all over the world, and he ended up making his own luggage for it. And when you're operating in these marginal markets, you have a specific set of needs. So he had, for example, this one bag called I think it was called the 1 million Hawley or something. And it was a bag that was specifically sized for $1 million in banknotes. If you're carrying cash around in these spots and you're needing to hand it out to people, and it's half serious, right?
Yeah.
But it's serious. So, and he had that kind of backstory to back it up. Like you could imagine him using those products in those ways. And that's the key to its success. And I think he also released some funny thing like an accounting set, it's like some really rugged way of counting money fast or something to go with the bag. Again, it's like not fully serious, but in a way, it's like creating this world with your products, and it was really compelling. And again, especially because he had the chops and the background to back it up. He made gear for, or made or makes the pause at the moment, but for a very specific use case and set of people, and I really respected how he executed it.
It's really interesting. So I'm not surprised with the Peak Design response. Obviously, Peak Design, they're behemoths. They make their own hardware. They're doing a great job. But SDR Traveler, I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. Okay, Jimmy, and now, like I said, you were nice enough to offer a Minaal Carry On 3.0 for this Ask Me Anything. I picked my favorite question, and the Minaal Carry On 3.0 is going to Adam. Adam asks, how does the rising number of electronic devices that people carry influence your backpack decision? For example, it is now not common for me to carry 2 sets of headphones, a laptop, an iPad, my phone, a couple battery packs, and all the peripherals associated with them. I thought it was a really interesting question because it's like things are changing, like so rapidly from a technological perspective, and that's got to change the way that you guys are approaching your bags, right?
Yeah.
Or does it not?
It does in a way, I think, although I think we've kind of insulated ourselves from it a little bit. So one thing is that we were always traveling, again, going back to the early days, we were always traveling with technology. And I think the level and depth of thought that went into things like the device nest reflected our reliance on technology. We really felt like we were carrying our offices and our lives on our backs. And so we treated it really, really seriously.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh yeah, let's throw a fleece liner in there and that'll be great for a laptop. So we took it super seriously based on our own needs as people working on the move. And we've adapted features over time in a very basic way. It's like, oh, you see things changing, you adapt the feature. So the device nest now fits the 16-inch MacBook better than it used to, because the 16-inch MacBook didn't used to exist. And so stuff like that, we try and build in kind of redundancy or features that allow you to develop with tech. So again, the device nest, you can change the size of it. So if you change your laptop size, which happens often in life, I think, for a lot of people, you don't have to get a new bag. You can just change the size of the sleeve and still keep it nice and protected. We have stuff like the tool case, the tool case XL, these accessories that help people kind of pack tech however they want. But the main thing, the kind of overarching design thinking for us is just not being too prescriptive in how we design pockets and containers and spaces. And a lot of people don't like that, but for us, it's the more specific you make the shape of something or the capacity of something, the more helpful it might be for that one thing, and the less helpful it's probably going to be for almost everything else, not only things that exist now, but might exist in the future. So we try and stay pretty neutral in terms of what you can pack in certain spaces, and try and let people do how they want, and provide that flexibility for them. As tech evolves, I think that approach has actually worked pretty well. I'm not going to claim we were thinking of that way back when, but it actually works out that if you can adapt your packing style and adapt what you put where as things change, then that actually works out really well for planning ahead.
It's a really interesting concept, because a lot of backpacks, like they'll have a dedicated phone sleeve somewhere, or a dedicated this or that, and like you said, for the right person it really works. But it actually, in the comments section of our reviews, I see it actually causes a lot of friction between people, because there are so many different electronics and just different things that people carry in general, that if you are very specific about it, it's good for the people who it fits, obviously, but it can be a little too rigid, and you're just kind of cornering people. When I think the bags that Minaal has designed, it's meant to just give people freedom, right? You put your stuff wherever you want. If you need a tech kit, if you need packing cubes, you can use those as well for additional organization, but more or less, you let the people dictate what they want to carry and where they want to carry it.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the common discussions we get in with people is about pen pockets. There's a subset of people who really want a dedicated pen pocket. I get it. But also, if you make something that can only fit a pen, there's going to be many things that it can't fit. So that's just one example of the sort of trade-offs you have to make, and kind of considerations you have to take on board. Because sometimes, I'm sure there's a passport pocket and the carry-on, and that's because generally if you're using the carry-on, you'll probably be pretty often using a passport, and if not, a B5 note, I think it's B5 notebook is basically the same size, so you can throw that in there anyway. So if we can offer something that's quite built for purpose, we will, but only if it doesn't kind of detract from the other stuff or the flexibility or the ability to personalize the bag the way you want.
That's great. All right, Jimmy, last question, our bonus question. Now, I'm not sure if you saw, but here at Nomads Nation, we're taking upon the journey to build our own backpack. And we're sort of documenting the entire experience and having our community vote on some of the key features along the way. What, this is my first time doing this. What would be a piece of advice that you have for me and the Nomads Nation community as we sort of go down this path?
Well, firstly, congrats. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really awesome. It's not product focused, this answer, but I think, and it's kind of a cliche, but I would just say, the biggest piece of advice would be to treat people the way you would want to be treated. And product will evolve, it will adapt, it will change over time, but it amazes me how just doing the basics in terms of talking to people like humans actually it separates you from almost everyone else. And so, even as a customer, I experience this every day, right? I come away underwhelmed from so many interactions with different businesses, different companies, different corporations, whatever. And so I think we've always tried to just be people behind the screens and talking to people on the other side, right? Just like we're doing now. And if you can maintain that over a really long period of time and keep that vibe alive, I think it helps create a bridge between first iteration of a product, next iteration of a product, tough times, the times where you can't deliver stuff for some reason or whatever. As long as you've been treating people like you'd want to be treated in general for however long you've been doing it, people are pretty understanding and pretty cool about it. So I think that honestly, that would be my biggest piece of advice.
That's really interesting too. I mean, coming, not just from like a philosophical perspective, just like treating people in general in life, but also just from a very specific customer service perspective, right? And I personally answer every single comment in the Nomads Nation YouTube channel, and I've learned a lot about different companies' customer support. And a lot of companies, they get a lot of flack in our comments for their lack of customer support. But I can successfully and confidently say, Jimmy, I've never gotten a comment about Minaal's customer service, which is a good thing. So you guys are doing something.
That's a massive relief. My favorite Reddit comment of all time was someone saying, what was it? It was like, Minaal has the type of customer service where if your hamster died, they would send you flowers. And I don't want to make light of that comment because maybe their hamster died. I'm not celebrating it in any way.
No.
But man, as a thing to read about your small business on the internet, that's a pretty cool thing. And especially because the whole team puts in a lot of time and effort and, sweat and all that sort of stuff into making that experience a positive one. 100%. And so to see people actually realize that and kind of tell other people about it is it's the reason for doing what we're doing. So yeah,
fantastic.
It's really cool.
Well, Jimmy, I think we're out of time. I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on, talking to the Nomads Nation community, answering these questions, and just kind of teaching us a bit more about the Minaal brand as a whole. I was wondering, any last minute plugs you want to do for Minaal? Any new gear or products coming up?
Nothing coming out soon. I would say the latest thing we launched is the carryonbagsizes.com. Very proud of that one. So if people want to go on and check that out and poke around and find anything that's broken, feel free to.
I have been on carryonbags.com. It's free to use, right? It's just a free resource.
100%. You just go to carryonbagsizes.com, search for your airline. All the information that you need is going to be there, and it's just a lot easier than looking through all those airline sites.
Awesome, mate. Well, listen, we really appreciate the time, and I appreciate the advice on our own building a backpack project, and maybe we'll do a follow-up sometime in the future. We can get some more questions thrown your way.
Sounds good. Those were great questions, really.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace. Bye.
That concludes our interview with Jimmy Hayes, co-founder of Minaal. A special thanks to everybody in the Nomads Nation community who submitted questions. And a special congratulations to Adam for your awesome question. You are the giveaway winner, and you're going to get a free Minaal Carry On 3.0 backpack. Remember, if you want to participate in AMA/giveaways like this in the future, be sure to sign up to the Nomads Nation email list, which you can do with the first link in the description. And I'm curious, did you enjoy the content? Is there a question that you would have liked me to ask Jimmy, or do you have a follow-up question? If so, let me know in the comments below, and we might be able to figure out sort of a follow-up round 2 Ask Me Anything with Jimmy again. I'm Aaron, this is Nomads Nation. We'll see you next time.